In today's session of Divorce Court, Carmen Neville says 5 words turned her marriage to Tyson into a nightmare.
He said that I don't love you anymore. I will never love you the way I did.
And when she found out he was with another woman, it was over.
I was washing his work clothes, and in his pocket, I found a letter addressed to this young lady.
Well, I thought that stuff was over with the check in the pockets and sniffing me every time I come back home.
The letter said how he loved her. He wanted to be with her.
What about that, Mr. Neville?
I was gonna mail it to this girl like a Dear Jane letter.
Dear Jane letters don't say I still love you.
I made sure I told her everything about this other woman. And when I finally opened up to her, she leaves.
Today, Carmen Neville seeks justice as she faces Tyson Neville in this session of Divorce Court.
All rise. Court is now in session. Maybelline Ephraim presiding. You may be seated.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is the matter of Tyson Neville versus Carmen Neville. I'm advised that after 3.5 years of marriage, you're ready to end it, Ms. Neville.
Yes,
why?
I'm ready to end it because my husband has lied, he has cheated, and he has shown no interest in our marriage and making it work.
What has he lied about?
He's lied just about the way he feels. He's cheated twice.
Hold up.
What do you mean when you
Honor.
say he's lied about the way he feels?
Excuse me, Your Honor.
He says, excuse me, 1 minute he wants to be married, and the next one he does not. For instance, okay, we were having a bit of a problem, so we decided that we would move. He was messing with a young lady.
Messing with her, does that mean
He was having an affair with her,
Your
okay?
Honor, we were separated at that time.
Sure
she
enough.
left my
Okay,
house.
that's
All right,
fine.
can I
Cussed
have
up.
one person talking at
And
a
I'm
time?
gonna be the one, okay?
Who says so?
I,
Who says?
well,
I'll call it.
okay.
Just so happens you're right this time. Finish what you were saying.
All right. Okay, he ended it with the young lady supposedly. So we moved to get a new start, to start over again. Okay, I was washing his work clothes, and in his pocket, I found a letter addressed to this young lady expressing how he loved
not
her.
washing my clothes.
Excuse
She
me,
just-
I am talking.
Wait a minute. You don't need to do that, Ms. Neville.
Okay, and in his pocket, the letter said how he loved her, and he wanted to be with her. Now, if it was over, I don't think that letter would have been written.
So once you left one state running from what you perceived to be problems and thinking that you were going to a state of refuge and start over and you'd leave your troubles behind, you still found that you hadn't left them behind.
Right, he was still communicating with her.
What about that, Mr. Neville?
The letter was sealed, you know. I was
In
gonna,
your pants pocket?
Yes, I was gonna mail it to this girl, what she was talking about, like a Dear Jane letter, because I had just left, you know, without...
Dear Jane letters don't say I still love you.
Look, that was just for me, for like, because, you know, I felt bad in how I left her. Now, this affair she's talking about, we had split up. She left...
Wait a minute. No. Let me go back to that because you just kind of brushed over it.
Okay.
You were writing her a Dear Jane letter saying, I still love you because you felt kind of bad the way you left her?
It wasn't, I still
And this
love
was
you.
a girlfriend and this is your wife?
That's how she interpreted it. It wasn't
Those
like
words
that.
just came out of your mouth.
No. That's
No.
how she interpreted it, Your Honor.
That was not an interpretation.
The letter explained why I left, who I'm with now, what I'm doing now, just to make sure to let this girl know that it wasn't nothing she did. This was just for my gratification.
So she didn't know you had a wife?
Yeah, she knew. We had split up. She called her family, all the women family come along with their trucks and come packing up all her clothes and whatnot. And she left. She left the house.
So when did the affair start? After your wife and you and your wife had separated?
Yes.
Where did you write the letter? At home? At work?
At
Where?
work.
So why couldn't you leave it at work?
Well, you know, I thought that stuff was over with the check in the pockets and sniffing me every time I come back home and stuff like that.
Sniffing you? You mean she has to smell your body?
Yeah, she does that.
Have you given her just cause?
No.
So this was the first time?
Yes. I mean, I'll go out, because, you know, I'm in the music. I produce, I rap, I do a lot of music stuff. So it's late night, studio stuff. I mean, I'm downstairs shaving, putting on cologne, doing my hair. She's like, oh, my God, I'm not stupid. I know what you're doing.
And you had given her no cause not to trust you?
The only time I had ever had sex with another
now we got
woman
an only time ever. All
was
right.
when we split up.
No,
she actually left the house. Not we're in a quarrel or
Okay,
something.
so what caused the split up? What made her actually leave the house in the first place?
Because she's
Nothing,
always,
just felt like leaving?
She's always talking about how I'm not open enough or honest. So when we finally sat down to talk why stuff wasn't going right, you know, I said, because, you know, I feel like I'm not in love with you anymore. It's just more than a hassle. I finally opened up and told her that, and as soon as I do, she calls her family, You know, that's a big problem, too.
So you told her that you weren't in love with her anymore.
That's how I felt. Because, you know, it's like more of a hassle. Everything's arguing, bickering. And when I finally open up to her, she leaves. You know,
Okay,
it's
well,
kind
what
of
did you expect me to do?
Okay, so what? So you asked him what was going on, and things weren't right, and then he said to you, "I don't feel
He
like
said that I don't love you anymore. Like I used to. I will never love you the way I did. We will never.
And
have
did
it
he
the way we
explain
had
why?
it. No, he did
I
not.
have a chance to.
So when you asked him to open up and talk to you, and then he started to talk, you didn't bother to listen to why?
He just said that's all he had to say about it. That's all he had to say.
That he just didn't love you anymore.
I didn't just pack up in one day and leave. I waited a couple of days and I kept talking to him to make sure that this is what he meant.
What made you
he was saying.
question him and ask him what was going on?
Because he was acting really distant. He was not spending time with me or anything. I know him. You know, we've been together 6 years. But this is not even the worst.
So he wasn't spending time with you, and what else was going on?
He just was staying out with his friends, you know, all the time.
But did you know about his music?
I knew about his music, and I sing also, so I know. You can't go to the studio Monday through Friday. And the studio wasn't a problem until the second move.
So you moved twice?
Yes, ma'am.
Trying to get away from trouble?
I left Virginia, and I went home for a year, and I started school. I started working again. You know, I got an apartment, taking care of our daughter, you know. 6 months into that, we decided that we were going to try to work it out. It was a mutual agreement that we were going to try it again.
This was the second time around?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
The second time I went, you know, he was dating someone else during this time, he said. But it was over.
We was apart for a whole year, Your
Excuse me. That's fine. That's fine.
But you reconciled.
I understand that this is a new person that he was dating.
I'm following you.
Okay. And I understand that, you know, it was always made plans for me to come out there, and I had to go really quick. I went in 24 hours because he said, I need you, and I need you here now.
So you
went on back.
She's under oath, isn't she, Your Honor?
I am. Thank you.
Both of you are under oath.
That's right. I did. I sold I closed in my apartment. I sold all of our furniture. I dropped out of school.
In 24 hours?
Yes, ma'am. And I left like the next day because he called his father. Had his father call me and tell me that he needed me up there. I got up there. He said he had broken it off with this girl. The first night that I arrived, she committed arson to the house we were sleeping in.
What?
She vandalized the car.
Oh, wait a minute. The first night you got back, she burned your house?
Yes, ma'am. She didn't burn it down, but one room was on fire. Fire trucks had to come out. We were sleeping.
Were you in the house?
3 o'clock in the morning.
The baby, too?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're smiling about it?
I'm smiling because I'm not smiling. That's not funny at all. I'm talking about how I had to leave in 24 hours. You know,
You didn't call your dad.
But wait a minute. So you get back a second time. He told you the relationship was over. The lady says fire to your house, and then what else?
She set fire to the house, and she committed vandalism to my car.
So what did she destroy?
She just keyed the car up, and she destroyed a whole room in the house that we were in.
What was that all about? Did you know about this lady, or you hadn't written her one of those departing letters?
I don't think
you didn't tell her that your wife was coming back?
For the whole year that we was apart, you know, she said 6 months we was talking about it. You know, we stayed in contact on the phone. And I told her, when we started talking about getting back together, I made sure I told her everything about this other woman. I mean,
but what did you tell the other woman?
You also said it was over.
I even told, you know, I told her she might be pregnant with my child, and she was thinking about having an abortion. I said, if you can deal with my mental frame, you're coming into a hot pan anyway. If you can deal with this other woman, the way I feel about this child, and all this stress, if you can honestly deal with that, then sure, we can put this together.
And I was going to deal with that.
And you told her all of that?
I told her I promised
okay, but
every
that's
detail.
What you told your wife. What'd you tell the other woman?
I told her the same thing, every detail.
So your wife got back home, and within a day, the other girlfriend is over there burning the house up.
Yep, that's
You
what
see
happened.
what you did? You jeopardized your family.
When divorce court returns, Carmen breaks down on the stand.
He needed me there.
Needed you? Needed you for what? Ms. Nevels, look at me.
Are you involved in a dispute with a neighbor, friend, relative, or business person? Take your case to a new court show and be represented by a prominent attorney. Call 877-777-0099. Divorce court is back in the case of Carmen Nevels, who says she's divorcing her husband Tyson after he admitted fathering a child with another woman.
You know, I didn't know that this other woman could do that, flip like that, because I was with her for about 6, 7 months, too.
People get tired, and that's what you know, that's what you need to understand. In
I can see if I was
people's emotions get involved in relationships. People's feelings get involved in relationships. And you don't like people playing with your feelings. And
I wasn't
sometimes
playing with feelings. I made sure I was totally honest
Your
on
Honor,
both parts.
if he was totally earnest when I got there,
but
he
you
wouldn't.
create danger for people. You have to be careful what you're doing.
I realized that, and it took me a while. I take full responsibility for what happened because what my actions and what I told this other girl caused all of this. You know,
Well,
I
I
take
am
that
so
on my
thankful
shoulders.
that you weren't hurt and that the child wasn't
Me too.
injured.
You know, I take that responsibility on my
Well,
shoulders,
if you-
but still,
if
we
you-
was together after that.
if you
know,
would've told
we
me
got
what
a
happened
house-
after that? You
we got a
stayed
house
together?
you know.
He told me.
And all that.
He told me a week
Wait a minute,
after-
both of you are talking at the same time.
I mean,
So
we
even
even-
after that, you remained together?
That's right. We got a house together and everything.
And what did you say?
So then what happened?
What did you say?
And then, you know, before we was in talking, so I'm not going to have you throwing up this other person's name up in my face all the time. You know, I wasn't in a romantic mood. I wasn't, you know, because I had a lot of stuff
You
going on in my mind,
wasn't-
as you can imagine. And my family almost
Yeah,
died.
you were-
And, you know, she'd be like, well, just because I'm not the other person, wait, you're not attracted to me, or I'm not her, and this and that, and la la la.
So you never got over it?
No, she
I didn't get over it,
No,
but
she
he
didn't.
told me like a week later, had I told you everything, you would not have come.
That's-
Did you tell me that or not?
What?
But
If-
wait a minute, but Mrs. Nevels,
He said he was honest. He
Ms.
wasn't.
Nevels, you don't really want to know everything, and you know that.
Well,
So,
I mean,
and sometimes when you ask
She was
those
talking about
questions, you really
intimate
don't want the
details.
answer. If you had made up your mind, knowing that you had been separated for whatever length of time, knowing that there was another person involved, knowing that this other person may be pregnant with his child, you went back to him with full knowledge of all of these facts. You hadn't counted up the cost and decided whether you could forgive him and forget. You knew you couldn't
I
just
did-
keep throwing it into his face.
no, I wasn't. But I mean, things changed. He didn't even spend time. I mean, I understand he has to go to the studio, but not Monday through Sunday.
So how did it change? Seems like to me
It
it's the
changed
same old
because,
thing.
well, it was the same old, but I expected
knew what she
different.
had.
I expected different. You know, he didn't spend any time at home. He'd go to work, then he'd go out to the studio with his friends. Monday through Sunday, I
And you
could see
never
Friday.
got over the fact that he had this affair with
Well,
this other
I
woman.
mean, he just didn't act like he wanted what he said. He's like he's saying one thing, but he was doing another thing. The way he
But I
affected
think
him.
if you really thought that a change was going to occur in 24 hours, now the only thing that changes
I
that
did.
fast in 24 hours is the weather.
I did, and I told him that it was going to take a long time for us to get back to where we need to be because this is really, you know, some serious stuff that's going
But
on.
what you did was you didn't think for yourself.
No,
you
I
were just
didn't.
relying solely on him, but you hadn't thought it through completely either. In 24 hours, you're probably excited at the thought of getting back to your husband that you still cared about and didn't count up all of the other emotional situation that you would encounter as a result of that. So
I
you
did.
still didn't stay together.
No.
So now it's
He
back and
said-
forth with your child.
He said that this last time he said he felt it would be best if he would be by himself. Now,
I think he got the right decision.
okay, well that's fine, but I want him to compensate me for the travel expenses and my apartment deposit. That's all that I want.
What
from
travel
him.
expenses?
The gas that it took for me to get there and back.
Which time around?
The last time. Only the second
The
time.
second time after the lady burned the house?
Your Honor, the second time.
So you went back there willingly and you paid how much in travel expenses?
For my gas, it was $120.
To get back to your husband?
Right.
And then what security deposit?
It was $175 for my security deposit.
You mean the apartment that you left in the other state?
Yes, ma'am. And that doesn't
You
even.
forfeited the deposit
Yes, ma'am. Because I broke my lease.
when you left in 24 hours.
Right.
You just dropped everything, put your career on hold, and just went running back to the arms of
Because he
a-
said that he needed me there. You know?
Needed you? Needed you for what?
He needed me there.
This is a grown man. What did he need you for?
He needed me to be his, what'd you say, your crutch or something like that?
He told you, I need you to be my crutch? You went back to be his crutch?
Yeah,
Ms.
can I say
Nevels, look at
something?
me. What, did you feel that you couldn't do anything else with your life?
No, but when you love somebody, you know, I love him, so.
And you loved him more than you loved yourself, right?
I guess so.
You weren't giving it any thought either.
I was. And this 24-hour thing is false also.
But she came back on a promise that you wanted to make this marriage work.
And I was expecting to promise her that she could deal with everything
And I
that I
was
brought
dealing
to
with
her.
it
I
until
didn't
you were
hide
acting
nothing.
like that.
I told
Until
her
you
my
were acting
feelings
like you
against
didn't
this
want to be
woman.
bothered.
I told her how my feelings would be emotionally because of this abortion issue. I told her everything. And I was going on to promise that she could deal with that. And so it was kind of like to me,
Well,
she was just
did you also, what was your intent? Did you intend,
family first. You know?
so did you stop your ways?
Yes, I did. And
why did
when
you
I
say
come
you
home and
weren't-
she's sniffing me.
Why did you say you weren't
that
in?
just
Why did you
enrages
say you
me.
weren't in family
That enrages
mode?
me.
Why did you say you weren't in family or relationship mode there? You said
I said romantic
well, you didn't have to be
relationship
romantic.
role.
Well,
That's-
Ms.
that's
Neville,
it.
I think what happened here is that, as you just summed it up, you were in love. And this was just clearly one of those situations where love made you do a foolish thing. Because you didn't think about it. You didn't think about the consequences of it. It was that hope that you wanted that your relationship and your marriage would work. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. We all hope for that because you probably married intending that it would last forever. But the one thing you can't do is close your eyes to the truth. And the other thing you can't ever afford to do is love somebody else more than you love yourself. Because when you do that, that's when you hurt yourself and destroy yourself. And the other person realizes that you love them more than you love yourself, and they act upon it and take advantage of it. It's up to us, you, me, individually, one-on-one, to love yourself. And to always say before you make a move, what impact will this have on my life? And then when you have a child, you got to add another source. What impact will this have on my child's life? Every move you make. You're a beautiful person, both of you, two beautiful young people. But you know what, Mr. Neville? You need to start giving some thought to things too. I applaud you for telling her what was going on, for being honest about your feelings. But the point is, you need to take a little bit more responsibility than being honest about your feelings after the fact. You need to think about what you're getting into before you get into it and what impact it will have on your life and your daughter's life. And when you're in a relationship, you always have to think, what impact will this have on my spouse's life? That's what marriage does. That's the difference. It's a partnership. You don't just do things just doing it. You always have to think about the third party.
When divorce court returns, the judge renders her verdict. And an update on the case of Corrine Williams versus Charles Williams.
Well, he couldn't perform in the bedroom.
After his surgery.
After his surgery.
So you wasn't getting anything?
No. Wasn't getting anything.
Divorce Court will be back in session in a moment. Divorce Court is back in the case of Tyson Nevels, who says after he admitted having an affair and fathering a child, his wife Carmen left him.
Now, in terms of the security deposit, however, as bad as it may sound, you know, again, you broke the lease without giving it thought. And it was a lease that you entered into when the two of you were separated. So it's not a community property obligation. The moving expense, you moved for the benefit of the community. So you did ask her to come back. You did promise that the marriage was going to work. It didn't work, but I'm not saying that you should pay it because it didn't work, but because the moving expense was incurred for the benefit of the relationship, the marriage. So therefore, I believe at that point, it was not a separate obligation, but it was a community obligation. So I believe the least that can be done is to reimburse her for 1/2 of the moving expense. So the court's order is, what'd you say, $120 for the moving expense? That Mr. Nevels, you will reimburse her $60 of the moving expense. That's the order of the court. Wish you both well. Court's adjourned.
All rise. Parties may leave the courtroom.
When Divorce Court returns, an update on the case of Corrine Williams versus Charles Williams.
I had an erection that day, and on the way home, she stopped to the supermarket.
You said going home because it's not going to last long.
That's right, that's right.
Closed captioning for Divorce Court provided by. Are you involved in a dispute with a neighbor, friend, relative, or business person? To appear before a real judge on a new court show, call 877-777-0099. And now for an update on a previous case in Divorce Court. Corrine Williams said after her husband Charles had surgery, their love life took a nosedive.
Well, he couldn't perform in the bedroom.
After his surgery?
After his surgery.
So you wasn't getting anything?
No.
Wasn't getting anything.
I had an erection that day, and on the way home, she stopped to the supermarket, and I told her, I said, look, let's go on home.
You said going home because it's not going to last long,
That's right, that's right, that's right.
Corrine wanted Charles to pay $4,949.61, the remaining balance of a bank loan that they had taken out to furnish their home. The judge ordered that they both pay half. Corrine says since her appearance in court, she has found a new man who is very responsible and they are engaged to be married next spring. Corrine says this time around, she wants a simple wedding so she can invest her money in the house she and her fiancé are building. She also wants to include a huge playroom for her 19 grandchildren.
I was totally honest. She knew full well what she was getting into, so I don't feel bad for that at all.
I think they left at the spur of the moment because he said he needed me. You know, I love him, and, you know, we're married. I was willing to do anything to make it work.
What really caused the breakup was her lack of trust and not trying to back me up in my, my future.
You know, I wish it could have worked out. It didn't. You know, we're just gonna have to go on the best way we can.